Our group went on a bit of a journey, and I sort of pay tribute to everyone in the group, because we started off wanting to visualise data about journalists who were subject to different kinds of violence or attacks. And we talked with some people from CPJ who were here. We looked at examples of the kind of visualisation of data that's already taken place. And we ended up deciding that there's maybe some of that existing visualisation already, but that in talking through that, we also came up with some ideas about where some blockages were in effectively reporting and gathering data about violence against journalists. So we started with this. I guess some of our problem is really that violence against journalists around the world often creates a culture of self-censorship, where journalists don't want to go to particular places or report on particular people or things. There are a wide range of existing organisations, both at international level and national level, who advocate on behalf of journalists who have been subject to different kinds of violence, be it intimidations, beatings, imprisonment, kidnappings, murder, and so forth. But they almost all have sort of different organisational priorities. They have different standards for data collection. They have their own informal and formal networks that they use to collect this kind of data, along with just scraping or reviewing daily media reports to actually find out what has happened in different countries. And so it's not particularly systematic and it's not particularly coordinated. There are all kinds of these organisations, Reporters Without Borders, CPJ, IFJ, IFX, and a range of national organisations. We thought that often journalists might be in a position where they don't even know who's the right organisation to contact, be it an international organisation or a local organisation, even if they know which one, how do they contact that organisation, and how can they do that securely? When they do contact those organisations, are they providing the kind of information that those organisations then need to follow up effectively and quickly on those cases? And if journalists can't do that relatively quickly, from wherever they happen to be, wherever that incident has taken place, that's a disincentive again to report it at all. If I'm stuck out in some district of some country and I have to wait 2 weeks before I go back to the capital, before I can talk to someone to find out what I should do to report an incident of violence, then maybe I just won't be bothered. Or if I can't do it securely and I'm worried about information going to the wrong place or someone being able to hack into that, maybe I won't do it at all. So in terms of the solution, we thought that firstly, whatever tool we came up with to try to help coordinate these reports so that the right organisations find out about incidents of violence against journalists, it needed to be accessible. So primarily, it might be a mobile tool, but then there may be a desktop version of it as well, but journalists out in the middle of nowhere would need to be able to use this tool relatively easily. And the barriers to entry shouldn't be too high, so it shouldn't require downloading complex software that they would have to have on their computer or phone. It should be something that they can use relatively easily and quickly. There will be situations where journalists will need to report data about their incidents securely, not always, but that's an important part of it. We looked at ways of sort of systematising the form that journalists could use to submit this data, so that we don't get partial data, or so we get at least the core data required for different organisations to respond to incidents of violence. The database itself, of course, would need to be secure. The database, when someone submits an incident, for example, if they're in Bolivia, then that incident an email gets triggered to organisations that are focused on those issues in Bolivia, for example. And this could then allow visualisation, maybe using DevInfo or other platforms of additional data as it's collected. And we thought we'd like to get something out there as quickly as possible, but while working on a more systematic solution. We have, so that's kind of the overview, and then I'll kick it over to
Will we maybe first want to talk about the secure connection?
I'll show it to you. That's what
yes, that's probably better to show it more.
This is something nice. So we thought
Sorry, I thought you were going to talk about the form.
Because the form will be accessible once you've got a secure connection, right?
Sure. So,
you don't want to have it.
okay, thanks. Okay, so we started exploring the idea of implementing Martis to solve some of these problems. So, as I hope all of you know by now, Martis is a secure information management tool, and it solves a lot of the problems that we seek to solve. So Martis could be used as a desktop version of a secure database to secure incidents of cases of violence against reporters. Where that database might be housed is sort of still an open question. But to solve this problem of reporters being able to easily, accessibly report violations that they might be facing or violations that might be occurring around them, the good news is that we are developing a mobile application of Martis for Android phones. So this is what the desktop implementation of Martis looks like. It's a simple database program. Again, this is free and open source. And this bulletin here that you see can be easily customized. So taking the form that you just saw, we can customize this database. There's the form. Oh, it's not here. Okay. It's right there. Yeah. Okay, so we can customize the database. We can also turn that form into a mobile application, a sort of a mobile form on your Android phone. So a journalist could be out in the field, use this form on their mobile phone, fill in the information, and what Mobile Martis will allow you to do is to encrypt that information on the phone. You can also attach videos or photos, other kinds of files that you might be capturing on the go, encrypt that information, send it to a Martis server, and the host database can download that information into the central database to be analyzed later. So that's kind of the basic idea. And then I had kind of an overview of what Mobile Martis looks like. So this is a pre-release version. It's about to be released. This is what it looks like. I mentioned that it's write only. So what does that mean? That means that once the information is input into the mobile device, it's encrypted and sent to the server, and then it's actually wiped from the phone. So a journalist in the field can send that information securely from the field, but not have it on their person. Mobile Martis also incorporates the ability to send information over Tor. And as I mentioned, you can send attachments over the device as well. So this is kind of what it would look like. A journalist in the field can capture information about a violation that they're experiencing or have experienced, send it to a server, and it can be aggregated in a central database and analyzed later.
Thank you, Annie. And Gary is part of a group that we also spent some time thinking about what the core data should be as part of an incident report.
Sure. I don't have much to add, but basically going back to the questionnaire. So once you've set up a secure connection, you're able to fill out that questionnaire, right? And all of this information is optional to add, right? So the only thing that's mandatory is to talk about the situation, right? So whether you've been kidnapped or whether you're reporting a murder, etc. So I don't know if we have the form here. Oh, I can actually work on this. Wonderful. Right. Wonderful. So if we go back, for example, to the previous case study when we talked about Jana, right? Say someone witnessed her being kidnapped, they would be able to go to access this form through the secure network, be able to enter their name, and let me just show you very quickly how it would work. They wouldn't have to put any of this information, then oops, sorry. Obviously this is a work in progress. And then be able to put what type of journalist Jana is, right? So let's say that she is a blogger, her employer, etc. Her current situation, sorry, this got inversed. Whether she was kidnapped, in this case kidnapping, her nationality, right? So they say, right? Then the date, the time, the country, etc. And then What's interesting here at the bottom of the form is that you can also choose different resources that would receive this information in this contact form. So as we showed at the beginning, there are plenty of resources that already exist, and that's something that we came across. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So this would basically allow you to communicate the information and to report it to the sources that you want to. So whether that's ICRC, and in this case here, the embassy and consulate of your country would be linked directly to the information that you put above, where you're from, etc. So once you've sent this, so Taylor and I, when we came to the group, we thought we were going to be creating visualizations, right, using DevInfo, maps, etc. There are already great tools that exist. I mean, the good people at CPJ, lots of acronyms, have created amazing tools, whether you're talking about maps, where you can geocode kidnappings, murders, etc., or pie charts that show you the type of journalism that those people were doing. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. What we can do, though, is work directly with you, right, to basically have this information feed into the existing databases that already exist, right? So if you're submitting information to these different organizations, it can feed into their system. So for that, you would need to harmonize and standardize the information that's being sent, and then feed into existing systems. So that's something that we're excited to pursue, and potentially increase the amount of visualizations that are currently present in the system. So, yeah, that's it. I think so.